was working as a nurse in the hospital and with a population of people who, many of whom were low income and revolving in and out of the emergency department on a daily basis. I saw the same people coming around so often that I decided that I would leave the hospital and try and work in the community. I got to know people. They were lovely, they were funny, they were sometimes angry, but they were multidimensional human beings. They weren't junkies who functioned under the influence of drugs and didn't have any other kind of way of being. They were proper people with whole stories and lives, and also who had gotten involved with drugs. So I learned so much in those early days about how little I actually knew, And so that first whole period was about unlearning everything that I thought I had been taught about what drugs are, what they mean, who people are that use drugs. The people in the building were my teachers, and one of the earliest experiences I had that really impacted me was a girl named Tilly, who was an Aboriginal woman in her 40s, who I had been housing for a while, and she was a very gentle, kind person, but also could have rages. And one time she threw her bike through the window of her hotel room in a rage. But that was not who she was, She was actually an incredibly beautiful, sweet person and had incredible, intense feelings of self-hatred. And it was shocking to me because she worked in the sex trade and one time came home after she had been very badly raped and beaten. And she had blood coming out of her head and she was shaking, and she was visibly shaken. So I took her up to her room and she sat on my lap where I held her. And this is a person who I knew about her childhood, what had happened to her when she was little. She had been locked in a room and abused both physically and sexually. She had a scar across her neck from where she had tried to kill herself when she was 13. And to see her so beaten down and in my lap, and it was like I was rocking a little bird because she was tiny and frail. And what she was saying over and over again after she had been so beaten and raped was that it's my fault, I'm a bad person, I deserve it. And I remember thinking desperately, oh my God, that black hole, that pain that she's experiencing. And it resonated with me as well because of my own experiences growing up, and I just desperately longed to take that feeling away from her. And I looked on her bedside table and she had a bottle of pills, she had some alcohol, she had some heroin. And I went home and cried every night for about 2 years about how common it was in the people that I was working with every day to feel like their lives meant nothing, that they didn't deserve to live, and really became increasingly aware of the dynamic between how crappy people felt about themselves and their desperate need to obliterate by using whatever substance they could ingest to remove those terrible feelings. I think we've been fed a lot of misinformation about the nature of the problem of drugs, and what I always try and explain to people that I had to learn for myself was that, of course, when I started working with people who use drugs, I wanted everybody to be clean. I wanted them all to stop using because I figured everybody would be a lot happier that way. And I tried very hard for a long time to try and get people into detox and get them into treatment. But what I was very emphatically shown was that is not a reality for a lot of people. And in fact, many of the people that I got to know and love had already been through that system, not once, not twice, but multiple times. They'd gone through detox, they'd gone through treatment, and they'd end up coming out the other end and using again. So it's not this simple A plus B equals C. In fact, we know in many cases treatment doesn't work for people as it traditionally thought of. But what I was not prepared to discover, and did discover, was by not really making the focus of the work the drug use, but by looking at, say, Tilly and saying, what do you need in your life to be happy right now? You need housing, you need to be stable, you need food, you need not to be working in the sex trade to buy your drugs. So you know what, let's get you on a stable supply of methadone so you're not throwing up every day, that you're not getting your heroin. Let's see what other things we can do medically to support you in your life, to stabilize you. Let's make you understand how valuable you are to us in our community, how much we care about you, how funny you are, how kind you are. Let's build your sense of who you are in the world up by giving you meaningful things to do that help you not be identified as a junkie, but as Tilly, a person. And slowly over time, what I saw happen in our community was pretty transformative among many, many people. That was as they began to build up more meaningful opportunities to see themselves in different pictures, in different settings, and to be more stable. The first thing that changed was their relationship with drugs. And the most common experience that I saw was that people who had had very chaotic drug use became less chaotic in their drug use and more stable. And that doesn't mean that everybody all of a sudden stopped using, but the way they used and the relationship they had with the drugs changed. And often over time, diminished, decreased, people's lives became more functional, their health improved, they started taking medications that they hadn't taken before, they started considering themselves differently, and our outcomes were through the roof in terms of longevity, in terms of age. People lived a lot longer. They were getting treatment for illnesses that they could never even get attention for, like diabetes, like cancers. They weren't just dropping dead of emergency crises and overdoses. They actually had lives, and that was pretty incredible.